Merci. Madame Panayotova.
Thank you, Ms. Panayotova.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank you for your excellent presentation, but like the General, I'm going to switch to the language of Shakespeare.
We faced with complex and ever-growing security challenges, and in the same time defense budgets are being cut across the board. So it's important to find ways to spend more efficiently without compromising the security of our citizens. In this respect, we should find how to fully exploit the potential of initiatives like pooling and sharing or partage des tâches, and smart defense. With the December European Council focusing on defense, now I think that is the right moment to initiate the EU defense capabilities review as a comprehensive and profound process of strategic rethink and capability development at the European level. This can be the first step toward a compelling and European defence capability white paper with the potential to consolidate the political will and pursue further synergies between the European Union and NATO. In this respect, my question is to our speakers to express their views on the possibility and utility of such a white paper, and what do you think of its potential to lead to more convergence in the area of still unfinished European integration, that is CSDP. Thank you.
Merci. Pas d'autres interventions.
Thank you very much. No other speakers. So, Ms. Arnould, General, who wants to go first?
I will just start with the last question. I think I stressed in my introduction the need, and I will fully agree with you. There is a need to construct the vision for the future if we want really to build on the long-term and enduring smart defense or pooling and sharing, I would say, mindset. So I don't know if a white paper is the best tool, and it is not for me to say. What I know is that for NATO, there was stated a strategic concept first, defining clearly three types of missions, collective defense, crisis management, cooperative security, and that was the framework to set up the level of ambitions, and then from that we derived the capability which we are required and that we are assessing now, and the risk the risk which come with that because we are not able to fulfill all these capabilities, unfortunately, with a reduction in defense budget. So it's much better, I think, to give a form of vision, while we know as well that we cannot foresee the future, but as used to say, we must enable it, we must make sure it could happen, so open the doors, and there are wonderful opportunities, and just to answer another questions about the present question about the most promising venues, this is clearly for me, and it was stated, firstly, to convert, to achieve what was decided, I mean air-to-air refueling. There should be a result, and there is an expectation from the NATO part that air refueling in Europe for the European countries would be improved, part of the burden sharing, part of the task sharing between both sides of the Atlantic. So, and this is a wonderful opportunity for the European countries and others as well, perhaps to cooperate for the most benefit of Europe and the alliance. And I would say with a strategic vision for industry as well. Another field is certainly, and we have already very much alluded to that, drones, UAVs, RPAs, you named them. Why is that? Because so far we use the drones which have been invented, let's say, almost 10 to 20 years ago, and we have the opportunities now to invent the UAVs for the future, which will be able to integrate in the civilian operations, into civilian traffic, and as well, which will take the full benefit of technology, and in addition, they will be useful in dual perspectives, both for military applications and civilian applications. And you know that the imagination is endless in the use of such tools to improve security, control for large space, maritime, air, and ground spaces. So, and the last point, the final point in what we can improve dramatically, which is crucial for the near future, is in the training of our troops. We know that our effectiveness as today is the result of the efforts we made in the past to train effectively our people. And in training, there are many routes depending on the common interest of many countries. You look to grouping, the countries are very keen to grouping themselves to train together to get the most effective of the training capabilities. And that should be done, that could be done in a European perspective or in more transatlantic, depending on the subject and depending on the will of the countries to work together. So those are, in my perspective, the three fields which are the most promising, at least for the middle term.
I will try to answer first to the last question, because I am probably in a minority, and I answer on a personal basis, because there is no view of EDA as regards the possible use of a white paper. I basically, of course, ideally and intellectually, it would be very good to share a white paper. And though I am from a passé plus littéraire que scientifique, I'm not a military for origin. I spent the first years of decades of my life writing papers, and I enjoyed it. Here I am highly skeptical. And I think that to have now such an exercise could be divisive, could be very intellectual, could be what we need to know. Well, we will not designate enemies. We will not precise the threats that we will have in 30 years. What we need to do, I think, is to concentrate not on a definition of what should we do in the European Union and what should we do in NATO. We have to work and seize the occasion, grasp the occasion of the European Council to help the Member State have the capabilities for any kind of action, and I mean, because I am EDA, military action, that they would want to do either nationally or in a NATO framework or in an EU framework. I don't see for tomorrow an exercise where our member state would have a fruitful exercise defining what they want to do militarily in the EU, what they want to do militarily nationally, or what they want to do militarily in NATO. I think it could be divisive. It could be also an alibi not to go now to precise, concrete work on the capabilities we need. And I think we can work on these capabilities. As General Paloméros said, by the way, there is a strategic concept in NATO. It would not be very different, so should not be very different, the kind of capabilities we want to develop. Then we know grossly where we want to go in terms of capability. What I would find useful is that many of our member states write livre blanc. And it would be already a beginning to have a very strong interaction while writing this livre blanc. I had the privilege, as well as two other Europeans, to be involved in the French commission of the livre blanc. I think if the member state could, as a first step, use EDA to come together in the way they prepare their livre blanc, the way they want just to provide advice, expertise, what are the other doing, then to use the instrument they have to have a better interaction on their livre blanc and on the conclusions of their livre blanc, of their strategic review. That is to say, now that I have decided that, or better, before I decide that, what kind of capabilities can I benefit from another member state? Or if I cut this capability, does it mean that there will be no of this capability any longer in the European Union? And I am very supportive of the exercise that has been given to us of an assessment on the basis of the Code of Conduct of where are the different member states. I am very much for an interaction as a first step on the elaboration in the different member states of their livre blanc. And of course, EDA is totally available to support that. And perhaps afterwards, I would be less skeptical about the prospect to have a useful European defense review or livre blanc. But after this first step of interaction between the different national exercise and taking also into account what has been done in the framework of NATO.
I have two questions, but perhaps I could give the floor first to Andrew.
Question en ce qui
Just a brief question on the white paper.
it would be fruitful to have more interaction between the national defence strategy reviews, and I would agree with her, of course. Do you think that that process could be encouraged by the production of a common template for the strategy and security reviews, so that all the ministries of defence were actually inquiring about the same things in the same way, according to a common methodology, and perhaps they could even achieve that at the same time?
Thank you. Perhaps to begin with Mr. Duff's idea, I think to have more, as much as possible, more convergence in time frames would be very useful. Because we face one member state having his livre blanc and then another member state having his review, and I think it would be a real plus if there would be more convergence in the calendars of. We know how difficult it is. It's linked to political calendars, but nevertheless, like programs, by the way, of investment. But nevertheless, the more we could come to commonalities in calendars, I think the best it would be. Common template, why not? I think it would be ideal for the efficiency. At the same time, I realized through the specific exercise to which I was part that, of course, the template of your review or your livre blanc is very much linked to the place of your forces, of your army in their missions. And I think it would be very different from one member state to the other. But they could be elements of commonality, and then there should be flexibility, because for some member states there is, for instance, a role of Navy for civilian aspects, which is, or air forces, which is very different from one member state to the other. But that could be a kind of common core elements, and then, of course, necessarily flexibility on issues which are specific to the member states.